everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York calling from the altar again, and this time we are here with Tony of Dawn of the Ouroboros. Thank you so much for being here. It is great to have you here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah,
Happy to be here.
anytime, man. Anytime. It's so awesome to have you here. Your new album, Velvet Incandescence, is absolutely kick ass. For people who haven't heard the full length album yet, though, with these two singles that you have, Velvet Moon and Rise from Dissolution, is that a good representation of what this whole record is going to sound like? Or being that you do have a fairly eclectic sound, that's just the tip of the iceberg?
There's going to be similarities between those two songs throughout, all the rest of the songs on the album, but we kind of try to make every song sound different. So there's going to be a lot more variety in there as well. So there's more surprises, I guess, is the way of saying it.
Is this just a continuation of the art of morphology, or is this kind of like a new beginning for the band in a way?
I would say continuation. The way how we did that album and this album as well is just to, jam out songs and whatever we think sounds cool, that ends up what it's going to be. We don't try to like have a sound in mind of what we should sound like or, what type of audience we're trying to appeal to. It's just, let's just play and then whatever comes out. And if we think it sounds cool, we're going to go with that and, hope others enjoy it.
Is there a preconceived vision of what you want a song or an album to sound like, or is your songwriting process very experimental and very improvisational?
I'd say improvisational. We're not too experimental. We still kind of have, I guess, an accessible sound in a way, but yeah, like all the riffs are kind of made through jamming. The guitar solos are fully improv, at least one during recording. And the majority of the vocals, Chelsea actually makes them up on the spot in the studio during the album tracking.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
impressive.
Yeah.
Has there ever been a time where like a lyrical concept could help maybe influence the sound, or have you ever approached things from a conceptual standpoint?
Um, More so with other projects, not really with this one. We wanted this to kind of be just more of a free idea of like we don't have a set sound on what our songs are supposed to be like or what the lyrics are supposed to be like. Outside of it all being under like a metal umbrella, that's sort of an amalgamation of all our influences.
Yeah. Well, being that a lot of the members, including you and Chelsea, were in among the torrent together, does that also maybe play an influence in terms of your sound, or like do you try, or with every project you're in, does it call for a different approach, or is there a usual method behind the madness that applies to everything?
Oh, none of us were involved in the writing in that band.
No, okay.
That doesn't have any influence, but I would say, like some of the other bands we have currently, Chelsea and I have a black metal band called Kalish Calling, and that's sort of similar to the more black metal influences you'll hear in Dawn of Ouroboros, but just with a focus on that. And then I and our drummer Ron play in an avant-garde band, Botanist,
Yeah.
that kind of has the more experimental approach. Like we're okay with doing things that are weird or whatever, if you put it that way.
Yeah. Um, well, it's fair to say, like, I mean, I do consider you to be like a fairly experimental artist with Botanist and,
Yeah.
Dawn of the Ouroboros and stuff. So it's fair to say, like, trying new things has never really been an obstacle, right?
Right.
Um, what are some of your influences in terms of metal? Like, what was there sort of like a gateway drug?
Oh yeah. So I'm 39, so this was a while back, but I would say late 90s. Kind of, there's no internet yet, so I was kind of exposed through heavier music through I guess new metal because that's what's around.
Yeah.
And then from there to get into actual metal would be like Cradle Filth or Dimmu Borgir would be like like, oh, I know this guy and he showed me this band and it's like this is way faster, way more extreme than what I was listening to at the time, and that was just sort of opens the door to go into record stores and just like grabbing stuff with cool cover art. And then a couple of years later, the internet started getting usable, not slow, fast. So then I just kind of opened like I could just check out dozens of new bands every day, and just kind of went down primarily black metal music, which is still my favorite. I just like the emotional rawness of it. But then I went into like a lot of progressive metal, death metal. Never really like the super brutal death metal. I like more like still to be some melodic structure to it, but always looking for something new, like sort of, I guess, yeah, then I was like addicted to finding like a sound I haven't heard before. And getting into like, I guess, some of the math metal stuff in the early 2000s, like Psyopus and Dillinger Escape Plan. Just, so I guess I've been all over the place.
Yeah.
And what's an influence.
Yeah. What are some of your favorite black metal bands, actually? Because black metal in itself has become so eclectic over the years.
Yeah. It's kind of hard to say. There's just so many of them now. Hold on. Let me get I'll just go with like stuff that I've found interesting in the past few years or some stuff. But I would say Lantlos is probably up there, even though they're not really a black metal band anymore. There's this sort of black gaze band from South Africa called Constellation.
I fucking love them. Oh, they're amazing.
Super, super underrated.
Yep, I interviewed them at like the heart of lockdown. They're fantastic band.
But going to stuff when I was younger, I was into Mayhem and things like that. Who else? Not really straightforward black metal, but I was really into Lord Belial. I guess you could throw Dissections considered black metal. That stuff when I was younger, but I like the modern post black metal is kind of like the area that I'm into.
You ever listen to Life Lover?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're my favorite. And you ever listen to Sorrow Plagues?
Yes.
Yep. Yeah. What about An Autumn for Crippled Children?
Yeah. Same label.
Yep. A shout out to them. I've been kind of hoping to do an interview with An Autumn for Crippled Children, but I think they prefer to stay anonymous. So,
yeah.
Yeah, so, but they're fantastic. So.
Well, if you haven't heard our black metal band side project, I'll send it your way. I would say Constellatio is actually an influence on that, but I just wanted more of a...
Well, you only have a Dreams of Fragmentation on there, right?
Yeah.
So,
but I was listening to them a lot, and I was like, let's make a more aggressive version of this with more techno synths, I guess.
Yeah. Well, with Dawn of the Ouroboros, like, with every member involved, like, is it fair to say, because I see like many different elements in it, it's fair to say that everybody in the band has like their own inspirations, right?
Yeah. I'm kind of all over the place, with black metal being my longest string of influences. David, our bass player, he's also kind of in that area. Chelsea, she kind of, before Dawn of Ouroboros, she wasn't really exposed to black metal that much, and that's kind of been her favorite genre now. But she started out in like the metalcore area when she was a teenager. That's how she learned to do vocals, and then kind of moved on through the years of what she's exposed to. Our drummer Ron is really into just like it's prog metal. So like if you put Tool in there, Tool's his favorite band. The drummer's a big influence on what his like natural writing style would be. And then our other guitar player Ian is he's into like hardcore and some metalcore music, and then more like Between the Buried and Me, stuff like that.
Does that help? Does that maybe help with the songwriting process? Does that allow you guys to bring in different techniques into the band as well?
Yeah, I would say so. Or it allows to, we don't really got someone pushing back on ideas, saying like, oh, I want it to sound, we have to sound like this band, or we can't do that because we're not doing that style or something.
Do you prefer to write alone when you're more in isolation and there's really nothing between you and your instrument, or is it better to sort of come up with ideas when you're all in the company of each other?
We usually bring ideas from alone. So I guess with my writing method, I do, I call it probability based, because I just write constantly, and the majority of it is terrible. But since I'm doing so much, there's a probability that there will be some good stuff in there, and that's ends up what is kept. Yeah.
When you guys like formed as a band, and sort of like asked this a little bit earlier, but like was that maybe like the vision to combine all of your efforts into one project, or were you all trying to step into uncharted territory when forming the band?
This band was formed just to have fun. We didn't really have a plan with what it was going to do, and then once we had some songs, we were just showing like the recording engineer and some friends like, oh yeah, we're just doing this project for fun, putting an album, and everybody's like, hey, you should take this more seriously. What do you have here is actually pretty good. And yeah, it's just gone a lot farther than we had ever expected or planned. It was just, let's make an album as friends. We had never really, we had known each other a while, but not all of us had participated in a single group before.
And actually, when it comes to your live shows, does playing live have require a different energy than songwriting? Do you consider them two completely separate arts, or do they have any similarities with each other?
Um, I like to record cleanly, and live, I'm fine with it being a little more raw, and it doesn't matter as we don't have to be perfect live. I believe that brings more energy.
Yeah. I mean, it's black metal, so I'd imagine you try to capture that essence of rawness in there, right?
Yeah, just one. I'd rather see a band that is, in motion on stage and putting their all into playing their instruments rather than focusing on like, oh, I can't make a mistake or something.
Yeah, of course. So before we go, I want to thank you so much for your time today. Is there just anything else with Dawn of the Ouroboros that you'd like to promote with the release of the new album in terms of shows or tours or other new music that's in the works, even if I'm asking that way too prematurely?
Yeah, so we have a West Coast tour that will line up with our release date. So you could find the tour dates on our social media pages, but it'll be like California and then back going down and then looping back up into like Washington after going into a little bit east in there. And that tour will be with Ashbringer.
Oh, other great label mates. They're another fantastic band.
Yeah. We have another tour in the works, which I can't talk about yet, which might be a little bit more east in the country.
I hope New York is factored in there.
Yeah. And I guess for a third album, we have about 50% of ideas going for that.
Okay. So we will. It won't be that long before we get. It won't be 3 years before we get the follow up.
Yeah, I would prefer not to have another 3-year gap if possible.
Yeah. Well, I will say that the Art of Morphology definitely served as a good lockdown soundtrack. So
Yeah, appreciate that.
whatever you are doing, you're doing it right.
I don't know what it is, but I'll keep trying.
Yeah, thank you. But everybody, we are here with Dawn of the Ouroboros. Be sure to check out Velvet Incandescence coming out very soon. This is Alex from Heavy New York, and we will see you next time.
Thanks for having me.